It's clever.
Yeah, well, I think that's where we are. So
That's it. Well,
there we go.
you don't want to work very hard.
No, it's a Wednesday in August. I
Yeah.
don't want to. How have you been, my friend?
Good. Busy, and good. Been playing some music, so having some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Johnny Bergen's in town, the worldwide West Side guitar man.
Worldwide West Side.
Yeah, well, used to be known as Rockin' Johnny Bergen.
Right.
And then he put out about 10 CDs. One of them is called Greaseland. I don't know what that's about, but
yeah, that's
anyway,
a little,
he showed up.
nose.
We're playing at the Dock in Richland tonight. It's a bar that, as you would guess, it's on the water since it's called the Dock.
Right.
But in fact, it's not. Some restaurants are kind of named like trailer parks. If you see a trailer park that says, Buena Vista Trailer Park, you know two things about it. One, there's no view, and two, it isn't good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's called the Dock, but there's no
Dock.
no boats.
But it's near the water, and in fact, you used to have a great view of the water until they built a big, dock, a real dock, cannery, like looking, a boat. What do you call it?
A boat hole. A marina.
Launch, where they store the boats, whatever you call that, and it kind of blocks the view. But it's a great place. The owner's great. She just got married. There's a class reunion in the out back tonight, so that means that at some point they're going to want to come in and dance the night away.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. But I got my amp fixed, and I'm bringing it as if I'm a bona fide joiner of the band for a few tunes.
Because I think recently you were sort of complaining about
yes,
harmonicists with amps.
Harpist. Well, the complaint wasn't about an amp per se. It was about using an amp, and there's 10 people in the room, and nobody's playing that loud, and the amp is being used continually by the harmonica player,
right?
Which is not a good thing. But this is a venue that holds 120, and there'll be a crowd there, and it's a big, step up stage, and we were supposed to play outside. But
if you play outside on the beach, do you need an ampersand? Sorry.
Well, it's not surprising there's no beach either.
Well,
but there's a big outdoor, and I was a little worried about the outdoor because it's 90 today, and sound doesn't go good, and there's a mandatory sound quiet at 10 p.m. So come to find out, the reunion is
what class is it? Do you know?
I don't know. The last time I was out there was a class of 86. And I looked down with horror as I realized that all these people were old.
Indeed.
And they had graduated 14 years after I did.
Yep.
So when I turned into a teenager, they were yet to be born. But that's what happened last time. When I was out there, I wasn't playing. I was listening to the Out of Favor Boys, who's Kalamazoo's finest band, with T-Bone, Tony Spruill, I've talked about, sax player.
What do they have to do to get in favor, or they will never be in favor?
They can't. It's an eternal damnation. Once you've been decided, you can't go back. It's sort of like classification system in the prison system.
Right.
Once you get classified high, you're not going back.
If they did some songs in Spanish, they could be the Por Favor Boys.
When that means what is it called?
Please,
boys.
Por Favor Boys. The Please Boys. Anyway, sorry.
So Tony came in last night.
Tony,
we did this T-Bone. We did this little fundraiser for this representative who's getting reelected, and because I had access to Johnny Bergen's schedule for tonight, which was the big night with the full band, he said, "Hey, set me up a gig where I play by myself." Told me he needed a couple $100, so I called the rep and said, "You want a fundraiser?" She said, "Sure." I said, "All right, let's do some posters." And she had about 20 people there. She raised well over $5,000.
Wow.
For her campaign, and Johnny was there. I played with him a little bit, a few tunes, and then Tony T-Bone showed up with his sax and just blew the lid off the place.
Tony T-Bone.
That's going to get the crowd, cheering and moving like a freaking saxophone.
Yeah, man.
It's very gracious man. Donated his time, so that was fun.
Sweet.
And then tonight, so I did get bought a new cord for my amp. As it turns out, the reason that it didn't work, thankfully, originally the amp was broke. My boy put a new switch in that, but then he said, "I think it's your cord that's bad."
The cord from the mic to the amp?
Yeah, and I used a brand new cord today, and the mic didn't work. And my Blues Blaster mic, I said, "Oh my God, it's fried. It's very expensive."
What kind of cord is that? Do you know?
It looks like guitar cord plug-in on the one end.
Okay.
And then the other end, there's a 3-hole
XLR. Yep.
female to accept the mic. Mm-hmm. And come to find out, I hadn't pushed the mic all the way in, so I've discovered that not only is that mic good, but the other 2 mics I have are good too.
Yeah. You got it.
Mike, and Mike.
You got
so
it.
yeah, so I bought that, and I bought a cord to go right to the sound system of the place if they have one. What do you call it? The
PA.
Yeah.
Sweet. Sounds like you're ready to rock.
Well, yeah, he's got a lot of tunes. Plays good guitar.
So
he must have made $100 in tips last night with only 20 people, but because they were higher rollers, having donated a minimum of $50 to get there,
right,
all the way up to 1,000. These are people with money, and so where you and I might throw in I might throw in a 5. I don't know what you throw in.
A quarter.
Feel like your father, $1.
I put in a quarter or a dime.
And there was nothing smaller than a 10.
Yeah, baby.
They're all 10s and 20s.
Sweet.
So he did real good with that. Yeah, he's got to make a living.
Hey, man, if that's your job, that the life of a musician where you're living from gig to gig, and I guess the rest of the day you're just like fucking around on your instrument and like learning and practicing and stuff.
Or whatever if you gotta manage a calendar, which is
right.
You gotta really get ahead of that, and
right.
you also got a website. You got to manage that and
right. Set up your booking dates and blah blah blah. And if you need to get someone to make a poster for you or whatever, you have to make it yourself.
And I would imagine, and trying to get interviews and trying to get coverage and cutting albums and going in the studio and. He's doing this cool thing. There'll be more about this, but he's renting a old theater in I think he said, it was in Illinois. It's one of those funny town names that everybody knows, but I can't remember it.
Hilarious.
That is funny.
Yes.
But he rented the venue, and he's going to put together like an all-star band from people from around Chicago and whatnot and line it up.
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of networking and like double checking with if these people are really committed to arriving at this time on this date. And yeah, a lot of admin goes into being a pro musician, I imagine, at least at that level.
And like he's endorsed.
You don't have your own manager.
A place called GHS Strings, which is here in Battle Creek or up the road in Battle Creek, is a sponsor of what amount unknown, but on all of his stuff, I'm sure it says somewhere, if you find the small print, that he uses exclusively GHS Strings. I think that was the name of it.
Right.
I don't want to turn my phone on to check, but so there's that too. I hadn't thought of that, which is the work of sponsorship. I guess when I was a computer system sales person, the rule was you never stop selling. You never stop selling.
ABC, always be closing.
Yeah. I tried to get there. We had a 20% closeout rate. That's a lot of people to work with for a while.
You had a what percent?
20.
Yeah, well.
You got to work to get 20.
Right.
We'd start with people giving us business cards at our booth. Every
yeah, you talked about that.
Phone call, and then I think we went through this, right?
There's a lot of hustle in making a business happen. It's not just.
I think it's nothing but hustle. I think that's the difference between those who make it and those that don't. Those that make it understand that the hustle is multidimensional and never stops.
Right.
And when you slow down, so will your business. Period. But it's got to be a hustle that isn't just busy for the sake of being busy. I mean, if you're hustling around trying to figure out how you're going to rent out your extra space you have in the back of the bar in a little back room that you have, and
right,
or whatever, you gotta know what's it go for, what's per person. I don't know if I told you about trying to get the local bar lined up, and the owner didn't. When I asked her how much is it to rent the back stage and the back bar, which is outside,
sure.
She said, well, I don't know, all depends. And I said, well, depends on what. I mean, I can give you a count, number of people. I mean, what is it per person? Nah, that's the problem with this place, she says. we never seem to settle on that. It's just ongoing. And she and her husband own the place, so it's like,
yeah.
There's nowhere for the buck to go on this.
Yeah, that small business that's what you got. It like you want to imagine that you start up a business and then it just like starts making money on its own, but no, you gotta be there pushing the donkey all,
and you got to be there all
every single mile.
You can't, if you run a business, you can't not be there. You can force a vacation here or there after a few years, but there's just no time.
True.
And plus, you pay such a premium on taxes in this country. It's just unbelievable. I'm at a 37% tax rate, for Christ's sake, because I run a small business. I pay an additional tax because I'm a small business. It's like, wait a minute, I should get a credit because I'm a small business.
Exactly, right?
And you do if you have employees, but I'm a one-on-one, gig worker. I do sub out sometimes, but anyway, all that.
So I guess that makes sense because we, as a society, government, want to reward job creators.
Yeah.
So you're not creating any jobs, so you don't get any cookies.
Well, yes, I am.
Only for yourself.
At least one.
Yeah.
That doesn't count for nothing. Am I zero? Am I invisible?
Yes.
Don't I count?
No, you don't. You have to create for someone else, man.
Well, I've done that.
It's like,
as I said,
on this podcast,
subcontracting.
I hired
At one
you.
point, I was subbing like 4 people. And that was nice because I I thought it was fair for me to take a 15% overhead for the paperwork and supervision, making sure they deliver.
Yeah.
I was in between them and the agency that hired. So that was nice because I made some money on that. But you got to do that too. I mean, you got to figure out where you're going to make the money. Where most of the money in a restaurant comes, not the most of the money, but the largest percentage of profit comes from beverages, which they get for pennies.
Right.
And they sell for dollars.
Right. Huh. Well,
except for the water, you got to pay a premium on everything.
That makes that explains why there's. Well, I was going to say. Here's what I was going to say, and maybe it's true or not. I see in America lots of breweries that only serve the beer, and they are happy for you to order a pizza for delivery to their location and eat it there and get more thirsty there and buy more beer there. I wonder if that's related to how beverages have a better margin. I don't know. That was my thought. Unexamined thought.
Well, if you're ordering a dinner, if you're bringing a dinner in, you're going to order your drinks there, right? Exactly.
Right. And it's so weird to me coming back to America from Spain, where every place where you can get drinks also has some level of food service.
And you're in Spain.
Yeah, in Spain. And so it would be very uncool / illegal to bring in a pizza to go sit down at a place where they serve food. It's like you don't walk in with a box of Pizza Hut pizzas into the local Olive Garden and sit down, right? It's like, no.
I'll tell you a story of when my brother Jojo and I went to Washington, D.C. to see his son, Adam, and his gal, Kristen. They took us a short drive from his apartment to a block-long warehouse of bars.
You did mention this before, yes.
Restaurants, and you ordered a drink, and then you went on your phone, and you ordered from any one of 10 establishments that were in the same building.
Right, exactly.
And then they brought you your food.
That, man, makes a lot of sense. Because there's so much safety regulation around serving food, right? And also different, probably more so in the States than here, but different licenses around serving alcohol. And
yes.
And if businesses can choose to specialize in one of those and rely on others for the other, then you can live symbiotically with one place supplying the booze and the other place supplying the food.
Yes.
But trying to do both is a legal loophole nightmare.
4 times difficult. Well,
yeah.
And to that point, none of the restaurants were serving alcoholic beverages. You could go to them individually and get food. But the other thing was each of them specialized in a particular type of food.
Right.
And when that happens, there's generally a tendency to do that really well.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't be making it with a specialty item unless it was good. So the pizza place is great pizza, and the Asian place is great Asian, et cetera, which was the case. Well,
I mean, and that echoes what the agricultural revolution, where we as humans suddenly had enough food that everyone didn't have to be searching for food all the time. So you could have one person that was really good at making stuff with metal, and another person that was really good at making stuff with wood, and they could eat what the other people, just specialization is a great thing.
Well,
we shouldn't all try to be jack of all trades.
There's a good deal of hunger left in this country. I don't know what Spain is like, but
there is
kids that go to bed every night hungry.
Well, I mean,
that's which is deplorable. Given what you said, right? Which is true for the most part. You don't have to spend all your time searching for food, nor is there ever a shortage of food. And the supermarkets I don't know what the supermarkets are in Spain. Of course, I've never been there, but the ones in America are just so incredibly stocked, and
there's just a surplus of every fucking thing. There's like 50 different kinds of Doritos, and then 20 different kinds of Oreos. But when we were there last, my kids were in the supermarket and they were looking for regular Oreos. Couldn't fucking find them. There was extra thin, there was super double stuffed, there was white chocolate, there was peanut butter, all of the possible things, except for their just regular goddamn Oreos were not available. So it's a what's the term? Abundance of riches or something. Anyway.
What is that saying? Well, so projects today. I speaking of as we did last episode, number 158. And we talked about the different definitions of the term glazing, and we talked windows.
An embarrassment of riches.
An embarrassment of riches, that's it.
Well done.
It's true.
Thank you, Internet.
Although it's not true for most people. They're not embarrassed by having riches at all. Actually,
they should be, though.
Let me say this. I've got nothing to be embarrassed about. Ain't no riches out there. Ain't no sunshine when that money's gone.
Uh-huh.
I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was.
Glazing. Windows.
Oh.
I also have a story from
today. I've replaced glass, so the window pane on the inside, unlike some of the glass on the other side, which had a crack in it, which I simply taped.
So it is double paned.
It is double pane, but it's not. No. It's not double pane. Double pane refers to what you have, which is very close proximity with each other with a pocket of air.
You said glass on one side and glass on the other.
Inside, a 2-pane inside and a 2-pane storm. They're two different window units, so it's not a 2-pane window.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. Although, if it wasn't, if you wanted to be a generalist, you could actually say that if you didn't know what 2-pane glass really meant, 2-pane windows really meant, it would make sense for you to say, well, that's 2-pane because there are in fact two panes to it. But anyway, the glass came out, so I had it cut.
So much pain.
I measured it. I bought a 24 by 26 piece of glass, window glass. It cost me $17.92, which I thought was fairly reasonable. When I went to put it in,
is there a glass store where you walk in and you're like
hardware store?
15 by 34, and they like cut it for you? Well,
they have pre-cut. The size that I just mentioned is a standard.
So if you're using normal human stuff, otherwise they could potentially cut it for you.
Well, and Frank, I wouldn't be surprised a lot of windows have to be cut, but the answer is yes. And this is in the back of a hardware store. And there's also a glass company that specializes just in windows right around the corner. But so I got it, and when I had measured it, I didn't account for the fact that it really wasn't square to begin with. So one corner of the place for the glass was a little bit, when I say a little bit, I mean 1/8 of an inch bigger than the other side. And it was offset enough, and I had the glass cut. I probably should have cut the glass at 26 1/8, or, then it would have fit perfectly. But as it was 1/8 of an inch short. Now, I got an $18 piece of glass. It's in the window, and there's a little crack at the top of it. And if you're going to apply the glaze, you can't apply the glaze from the edge of the wood trim to the air. You got to be connected to glass.
So what did you do, Dennis? How did you solve this conundrum?
Well,
transparent.
So a series of things. The first thing I did was I leaned down off the ladder and I found a chip of wood. And I picked the chip of wood up and I used my putty knife. The glass, by the way, it already had those little push pins put in on the side, so it could go up and down, but it couldn't fall out.
Okay.
And so I put my putty knife in the bottom and I raised the window and I stuck in a piece of wood. And as I did, I realized that particular piece of wood was too thin, because when I looked at the top, there was still a bit of a crack. So I got another chunk of wood from the ground and put that in. And then I did a search for what do I have.
What an embarrassment of wood chip riches you have.
What do I have on hand that I can fill in that gap with to hold the window up, but it can't be really much thicker than the glass, which is only 1/8 of an inch thick, or maybe a
Credit
little
card.
bit more than that. So one idea I had, I cut a piece of wire, braided wire, and I cut it exactly the right length, and I tucked it in that space and realized that that was too short, too little.
Oh
It
man,
needed to be bigger.
what an adventure we're on.
So then I got a piece of metal, and I put the piece of metal underneath the wood chip, and it was perfect. And I thought, what do I use? What do I use? And then I remembered that a window I had taken out earlier from a different location,
Paperclip.
the cedar wood split a little bit, and there was a long splinter of wood.
Cedar splinter.
And I wondered, did I put that in the trash can? I look, and there it is. Like, it's about the size of an arrow from a bow and arrow, with a real pointed tip, and the end was about 1/4 of an inch. And so I took it and broke it over my knee, took out my knife and whittled.
It was the size of an arrow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Length.
the whole arrow. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
And I broke it over my knee till I had a little piece of it, and then I used my knife and I whittled it to be exactly the right width, and so that it fit directly under the window and did not stick out.
But that would have sucked if you whittled too hard and it was too
You'd have to
small.
start over.
Yeah.
You'd have to start over.
So you whittled
But
a
I did
cedar
it.
splinter.
This was a one-time event. I got it right. I put it in. So now
Unbelievable.
it's sitting there, and
Does anyone
there's
else
no
know about
space
this
left.
aside from our listeners?
What's that?
Our listener. Does anyone else know about this triumph of your
Not yet.
engineering
Not yet.
and
You're the first.
ingenuity?
It's what you call exclusive. What the news
Okay.
stations
Breaking
call
news.
breaking news.
Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
Everything is breaking news. Of
Breaking
course,
news.
it's the nature of news that it's breaking. At one moment, it's always breaking. If it's yesterday's news, it's not breaking. But
It's broken. Am I right?
if it wasn't breaking, it wouldn't be news. It'd be
be broken.
something else. It'd be old story. It'd be,
Well,
whatever.
This is
So I
new.
glazed right over that chip
Glazed right over that
and
chip.
put a push pin in not the chip, the sliver, I should say, and
In
got
a
it all
push pin hole.
done. And it took. How long do you think that took me?
1 hour.
Whoa. You win the prize. Ding. Wow.
Was it 61 minutes or something?
No, 60 minutes, 1 hour or so. I mean, I didn't time it actually. It was about an hour. I was surprised. I looked at my clock. It was 11:30 already,
Took you about that long to explain it. So
and I had to quit. Well, I'm in and out of the garage 4 times looking for the right piece of, and I'm at my son's house where I don't know where anything is. I'm looking on the floor. I'm finding this. I'm finding that.
finding the right splinter is
Right. Found the right splinter. It's right in the trash can, right next to me.
cedar splinter.
Yeah.
You said I see there splinter. Well, okay.
Man, you're almost on a roll tonight.
Well,
Well,
almost. So I've got some news from my life. So my kids are in the south of Spain, about 7-hour drive away,
wow.
and
On
they
the sea?
no, in very far from the sea. It's in a place that gets really, really, really hot in August during the day, and then at night you can sort of be outside, but like in short sleeves and shorts. And so what happens is people sort of like sleep in the afternoons when it's super hot, and then go out like all night long, just walking around and having a drink here or there or whatever. And so anyway, they're down there, and last Thursday, after we recorded, my 9-year-old son had sort of a bellyache, and he was like, "Oh, my belly hurts." And my mother-in-law is always very quick to be like, "Let's get you to the doctor, stat."
Oh dear.
And
Easy.
and here where the doctors are free, like, fine, that's okay. Although I imagine that too much of that spirit would overwhelm the healthcare system. But anyway, so took him to the doctor, and one doctor said, "Well, his belly hurts. I don't know. I can't see inside there. I mean, if he says his belly
What
hurts,
did he eat?
yeah, what did he eat?" And he was like, normal stuff. And it's not the first time that he's had a bellyache. But so
Could
they
be just gas.
right, and they were like, "Well, have you gone to the bathroom lately?" And blah blah blah. And they're like, "No, not really." And so they took him from the super local town with a population of 800 to the slightly bigger town with a population of 6,000. And the doctor there was also like, "Well, I don't know. I suppose worst case, it could be like appendicitis or something.
Right, because he was in pain.
Yeah, exactly how much pain, I don't really know. I
Put a
wasn't
hole in
there.
his stomach and saying
Yeah,
it hurts. And
yeah.
couldn't get
And
comfortable.
and so they were like, well, I don't know. I guess to really be sure, we should refer you to the hospital that's 45-minute drive away.
Oh, Lord.
And so they did that, and they took him to the hospital. And at the hospital,
This is you and him?
no. I was still up here. This is my in-laws and
Right,
and him
right.
And my kids. And so they went to the hospital, and the hospital were like, well, we can't really be sure. Like, they made him sit in the emergency room for a long time because that's what you get when you go to the hospital, and you're not
Unannounced.
and you're not bleeding. They make you wait to let other people go through first,
Sure.
and then they finally get around to him. And they were like, well, we can't really be sure. Let's do a sonogram to like see inside his belly. And they did that, and there was some inflammation around his intestines or something. To me, it all sounds like, you know how as a human, sometimes you get like a 24-hour or 48-hour just like stomach virus, and you have diarrhea and you puke and you
don't know
feel like
why,
shit and you don't know why, and it hurts. And then 24 hours and then 48 hours later, you're like, well, okay, I don't know what that was. Maybe it was food poisoning. Maybe it was a virus. I don't know. And so anyway, they were like, well, let's check him into the hospital overnight. And so then like my father-in-law drives and my mother-in-law doesn't. So she had to stay with him at the hospital while he drove my daughter home 45 minutes away to the house.
So she had to go along because there was nothing else. There was nowhere for her to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's the kind of person that would never, ever leave a sick child alone, and which is, a virtue. And so anyway, so he spent the night in the hospital, and then the next morning they were like, well, let's do some more tests, because doctors are always like, well, let's do some more tests.
Well, sure, because they don't know. I mean,
they don't know, but it's not. I can't be as cynical as I would be in the States, where I feel like the doctors are getting kickbacks on every $50,000 test that they run. Here, it's not that way. They're just like, we can't be sure, so let's run another test until we can be sure. And so anyway, he was there 2 nights.
Oh Lord!
And then it was
poor guy.
Well, and then it was Saturday came along, and so we decided, well, as parents, we have to drive down there. So on Saturday morning, we drove 7 hours down there to be with him, and he was, somewhat happy to see us, but also like, really, why would you come 7 hours down here? But I think we made the decision based on what our future family remembrance is going to be, because we're all going to be like, remember that time that you were in the hospital and mommy and daddy drove down to be with you,
and mommy and daddy never went down there.
Exactly. Like those are the two.
For the best.
Those are the two stories, right?
And it turned out okay.
Right. Exactly. So those are the two narratives, and once we planted it like that, it was like, okay, well, we have to go.
Right.
So anyway, we went down there, and they were super, because of COVID and shit. So we got there, and we were like, okay, can we go in and see our son? And they were like, well, you need a pass to go in and see them. And like, okay, where do we get the pass? And they're like, well, you need to go outside and walk around to the other end of the building and get the pass there. We walked around to the other end, and they were like, they type on the computer, and they were like, there's already been a pass issued. And we're like, yeah, that's his grandmother who's in the room with him has that pass. We want another pass. And they're like, no, one pass.
Oh Lord.
And so we were like, oh, so you're telling us that we have to call her, have her leave him alone, come out to the lobby, hand us the pass so that we can go in individually to see him. And they're like, yep. So we were like, okay, I guess. And so anyway, we did that. And when she started coming out, and I was going to go in first, she made a big, I was like, so tell me how to get there. And she's like, you go down there, you go down there. And she's like, well, you wouldn't understand. And I was sort of offended. I was like, I mean, what the fuck? Tell me right and left, and I can follow directions. And she's like, let me just show you. And so she walked me and my wife with a single pass. Like, it was a whole subterfuge the entire time. She was like, oh, let me just show you, because you guys are stupid.
Well, that's nice.
Right, exactly. And like at first I was like, hey man, that's kind of offensive. But then it was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing here. Wink, wink. So anyway, we got there, and he was fine. He had a saline drip in his arm, and his biggest complaint was that it was hard to sleep when you can't move your arm. and that he was just bored to fucking death being in bed all day as a 9-year-old who is normally super active. And so I understood that. And I talked to the doctor, and it seemed very clear that the doctor was in no hurry to release him, and was like, well, let's wait for another couple of tests, and then we can, like, if we get enough tests, then we can, like, draw a trend line. And I was like, okay. So I said, look, what do we need to get him released today? And she was like, well, let's see, we would need this to come back okay, and this other thing, and this other thing. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do that. And over the course of the day, we accomplished those 3 things. And she was like, well, I don't see a reason. Like,
was he still in pain?
No, but so the problem, it's funny. Today I listened to a podcast about the placebo effect, which I adore. It's the problem with pain, like measuring pain, is okay. So he's in pain, so you give him medicine to remove the pain, and now the pain's gone. So is he okay, or is he okay because he's receiving the pain medication? So then you slowly reduce the pain medication, and then is he okay? And you don't really, like, you have the whole regression to the mean problem where most people are going to get okay, or are going to get better. So does that mean that the medicine is working, or if you didn't give them anything, would most people regress to the mean? So
did time do as time does and heal all?
Exactly. So my hypothesis is still that it was a thing that if he had just, like, laid in bed at home and moaned and groaned for 2 days, he'd be fine. But anyway, they released him, and we took him home, and then we had to get a stool sample to deliver to get approval of, I don't know, that there's not a parasite or something.
From the stool police.
Yes, the stool police. I hate the stool police. They're such assholes.
How did you get them the spool? How was it delivered? It wasn't a pigeon carrier, was it?
No, it wasn't a stool pigeon. No, he was released, and then we went 45 minutes back to the house and spent a night there, and then the morning there, and then we drove back home. And in that time, he did not manifest any stool. But on the day,
wait a minute, there was no stool manifestation.
No, he wasn't eating very much because, like, his belly hurt,
right,
and he hadn't been, like, moving at all. And
there was no stool evacuation.
No movement of the bowels, and
no bowel machination.
No, and he's very much a he's going to be skinny his whole life. He eats what he needs, what his body wants him to eat, and then no more. He doesn't, like, snack or binge or anything that's just not his manner. So, having been still in a bed for a couple of days, like, he wasn't very hungry because he hadn't burned any fuel. So anyway, we drove back, and then a stool sample was acquired and delivered to the stool pigeons, and they were still waiting on the result from that. But anyway, it was a big.
Is he hurt still? How's he feeling? A little queasy, maybe?
He's fine. He feels fine.
Yeah,
it's all better.
Right. And so so as it turns out, he had a stomach ache that lasted several days.
Yeah, or 2 days.
It's interesting. So little of what you just described would happen in this country. So.
Exactly. And but also
the emergency room here would have said, well, we can't tell anything here without it. We're going to take one test and find out the results. Go ahead, go home with him. Mm-hmm. And if he gets worse, you'll have to come back.
Right.
It's not an appendicitis, so come back.
Which is what I would have done if I were the adult in charge, I think. I learned an interesting thing. Last time he had a bellyache, and I took him to the local pediatrician, and she told him, she felt around on his belly a little bit, and she concluded that he had a thing where sometimes your intestines can sort of get a little twisted in a way that makes it hurt, and but, like, it resolves itself. But she did a thing that was kind of mind blowing to me. She said, "Okay, hop on your left foot, just stand on your left foot and hop." And he was like, "Okay," and he did that. And she said, "Okay." And I looked at her, I was like, "What the fuck was that?" And she said, "If your appendix is bad, you cannot do that. You will fall over in pain." You can't hop on one foot if your appendix is in trouble. Which I was like, damn, what a life hack. Anyway,
That's a simple test.
It was a
Caveman made that one up.
right. So it was a story to remember. The weekend that we spent 15 hours in the car to visit the hospital.
His version of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And he also, like, talking to him, he was like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, my belly hurt.
I don't know if we need to do all this. I mean,
and they brought me here, and, it's a lot of attention and stuff, which is, good, but I don't know. So anyway, that was our weekend. We drove down there.
Well, that's a lot of going on. I'm trying. We end up with grandkids with colds, so we're going to see how we feel. But it's hard not to catch it when you've got a baby, a toddler, a young child sleeping on your chest who has a cold.
You haven't had the COVID yet, right?
Correct. I don't say yet. I haven't had the COVID period. My brother got it. Went to a reunion. Him and a bunch of other guys got it. Hey, I'll tell you a little bit of interesting stuff. You were never a Game of Thrones watcher.
No, but there's a new series that I'm sure you're excited about.
I saw it.
I was going to mention that to you.
It premiered, and I got to tell you,
Dragon House
that
or whatever.
I was completely underwhelmed.
Interesting.
To the point where I guess I'll watch another one just because I'm bored.
It's like a prequel, right?
It's a prequel. And what it is it's all it's, in one perspective, it's all of the enormous sets and the incredible animation and all the dragons and the fighting and the all of that stuff that happened in a Game of Thrones, and of course interspersed with dialogue and characterization and whatnot. And the dialogue and the characterization was not well done. There was some.
The writing was bad.
Was the king, and he did a very good job. But everybody else, it seemed like they were, in today's age, the way they talked and looked, and were delivering these kind of matter-of-fact lines that it just was not compelling. There was nobody in it like the great actors from Game of Thrones that I saw. Now, I'm very likely to tell you in 2 weeks that changed, that improved.
I look forward to this.
But I mean, a couple times I looked at the TV set and I said, "What? What?" No, like shook my head, like, "What?" I mean, I never did that in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
it seemed like all the pomp and circumstance, orgy scene and all this stuff. But what in the Game of Thrones, all that stuff was in the background. The characterization was what it was all about. All the other stuff was a fascinating backdrop. In this case, it was the opposite. They had this fight. These fights go on. What do you call them? Jostling? No, jousting.
Jousting.
Long jousting.
Jousting.
Jousting with the long things. It went on and on and on, and it was a celebration. So it wasn't meaningful. It wasn't like warring factions. It wasn't like if you
It was
won,
like the fairgrounds.
Yeah. If you won, you didn't die. If
blue
you
ribbon
lost,
or something.
There was a guy who died, I guess. I don't know, but it's like you got the favor of the lady who took a ring of flowers and threw it over your spear, and it was like, what? Are you going through all this for that? I don't know. What?
I'm so, I knew from the start that I wasn't interested in that because...
In the prequel?
I mean, yeah.
Or the Game of Thrones?
Look, I'd be really surprised if I see anything with dragons that compels me. There's just something about the use of that creature that I don't know. I don't
let me tell you this.
But also the chivalrous knights bullshit, which so much of that is like fiction that was never really a thing. But
I won't speak to that. But I will speak about the dragons. Is that in this case, in today's day and age, the realism is incredible, and the size of them is so amazing, and the fact that the characters ride them. Right. And that imagery, much like if you saw, what was the thing that Sigourney Weaver was
Avatar.
in? Avatar, right, where they were flying these creatures.
Yes.
Now, what did you think of that? That didn't do much for you either, then, did it?
That was okay. That was really groundbreaking 3D animation work. Like, Avatar is old. I don't think.
Yeah.
It's at least 15 years old. And it was really groundbreaking at the time. And it was like one of the first 3D movies that was available in the cinema. I didn't see it in 3D, but and it was such a big deal because like James Cameron spent a huge amount of money on that, and it turned out to be a good bet. Pretty sure it won a bunch of Oscars, but that was okay because I don't know. It wasn't. There's something about the European dragon myth that is I don't know. It's just weird to me. I don't get it.
Too storybookish, perhaps. We, on the other hand, the Game of Thrones, we're so excited about seeing it that several of us vowed that we'd watch the whole series together. We got together and watched it at their house on a big screen, giant screen. And
now, if they made a Puff the Magic Dragon show,
you'd like that.
Done by Hana Lee. Yes, that might be interesting. But
well, indeed. So, what is your week ahead have in store?
So this weekend and the end of this week, which are, I guess, synonymous, but I also, by saying that, I include Thursday, Friday evenings. Our town is having its annual festival, and something that happens in Spain, which kind of blows my mind coming from America, where America is so huge. In Spain, you can get a little, like our town has 8,000 people, residents, and we're having a festival where we have musical guests that are like nationally known. It's like if I don't know, if it's like if in North Carolina, if like Valdez had a Taylor Swift concert or something.
Oh, wow.
It would just be like, what? Or like Beyonce or somebody came,
is it
came to Morganton.
To your town, or do these national
No. It's a thing that happens. Like they get booked probably every weekend of the year,
somewhere,
probably more. And so anyway, we're going to have several super famous people come and sing for us, which we have in the past. It's been like, I've seen some of the premier Spanish musicians perform, and again, that's going to happen. So that's going to be fun to be able to go out, to be able to walk. It's probably 500 yards to go see a free concert by a famous
500 yards.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is just the right distance. Weekend? Which is just the right distance so that like when you walk home and close the windows, you can't hear the concert. Yeah,
maybe
that's this weekend. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but
maybe the bass.
So that's coming this weekend, and that's going to be fun. It's a shame that my kids have never experienced it because they're always away this time of year.
And it's true again.
And it's true again.
Because you left your son down there?
Yeah, I left my sick child. I abandoned. No, but when we came back, we thought there was a chance that they might be like, please take us back, because the annual parties that happen down there have finished already. So now so that's like a tiny little town of like 800 people, where for 1 week of August there's like 20,000 people there. Yeah. And then everyone goes away, and we're now in the part where everyone has gone away, and so a lot of their friends have left, and they're just going to be down there bored. But they did not say, hey, maybe take us back with you, which kind of surprised us. But
good for you too that you continue to get some time alone.
Yeah. And also, if they came back, we would still have to be in this tiny little apartment because the other house is not done yet. Update on the other house. They have today, I think they finished varnishing the floors. And so next is the painters have to come back and fix a little thing where the machine that they use to sand the floors on the stairway scuffed up some of the side boarding on the stairway that the painters have to come back and fix. And then this weekend, between our concerts and merriment, we're going to be cleaning. So we have to the sander that did the floor brought up all this tiny particulate sawdust that sticks to the walls and stuff. So we're gonna have to brush down all the walls, and then we're going to take everything out of our closets.
Did that cleaning of the particles happen before the varnishing of the floor?
Well, yeah. So when they sanded the floor before they varnished it, right? They left it for hours for the particulates to land on the floor to be swept up to some level of clean.
But they didn't wipe down the walls?
I don't think so.
That's not when you sand a room and you're the sander and also who has to varnish, the sander's responsibility, you'd have to wipe down not only the walls but also the ceiling. With a like a feather duster type
Right,
thing.
yeah.
You do the ceiling first, then the walls.
Right.
Otherwise your floor will have the particles in it, because they will, anytime a door opens anywhere in the apartment or a window opens anywhere in the apartment, whatever's on the ceiling or the walls is going to land on the floor.
Right, but it's my understanding that once if you varnish the floor and the particles are still stuck to the wall, once
True.
the varnish dries.
But the varnish drying is probably a 6 to 8 hour process. It's not only got to just not dry, it's got to be hard.
Right.
It's tacky for hours and hours.
Right.
But anyway, that's one of the reasons that in between coats, if you get a double coated, I don't imagine they're doing 2 coats, but
they are.
Well, then in between you sand again.
They did.
Well, and then you got to do it all over again.
Right. So they sanded and swept, I guess.
I'm sure it'll look fine. It just
So it's not as bad as the neighbors, the ones between us, between the 2 apartments, that if they had sold their house, we would have been golden. They had their floors done. Remember 4 months ago when we had this crazy sandstorm from the Sahara Desert, was blowing sand all in the air here?
Oh yeah.
They were doing their floors when that was happening. I was like, damn, that's some bad luck.
That's some bad luck.
When there's so much sand just like in all the air all the time. But
Well,
so anyway, that in theory that's going to be done, and we're probably going to have to basically. So our closets that have had their doors painted, they were necessarily open for a long time while a bunch of like dust was floating around, and so we're probably gonna have to take everything out of the closet and wash it.
Let me ask you this: the inside of the closets weren't painted, but the doors were.
Correct.
And the doors were kept on the closet while they were painted.
No, they were taken off.
And were they painted in the same room?
I don't think so.
Okay. Otherwise, you would have removed the clothes.
Yeah.
Because they smell like paint.
Yeah. No, they.
What did you paint in the room where the clothes were without a door?
The walls and ceiling.
So the clothes would smell like paint. They should have been removed first.
Well, we don't have any place to put them. But so we're gonna
plastic.
Oh, they were covered. The closet space was covered with plastic.
Good. Perfect.
Yeah. So
good job.
But, yeah, I think our painters are reasonably competent. But so we're gonna take everything out of the closet, and there's probably gonna be some stuff that doesn't get put back in the closet.
That's a good idea.
And probably have to wash everything. And anyway, it's gonna be a weekend of labor.
Well, and we will leave it at that high note. I got to scoot. I'm out to the dock.
Okay, well, don't fall in the water.
Right. I'd have to walk across. I'd have to walk out of the parking lot, go down the hill, turn the corner a little bit, then continue to walk down the hill, climb over a fence, and then fall in the water. So I don't think so.
Well, what's up, Doc?
What's up, Doc? That's it. Adios, amigo. We neither of us have homework.
No, man.
To me, there was
summer vacation.
Something's going on. Anyway, I'll be in touch. Love you, man.
Okay, that's it for episode number 159. You can find the show notes at happyhour.fm/159. We've got some links to Johnny Bergen and the Out of Favor Boys and this new HBO thing. And just be good to everybody and support us on patreon.com/happyhour. That'd be fantastic. See you next week.